Today we are harvesting our lima beans. This is a shelling bean. That means that you let them dry and then take them out of the shell and cook them, kind of like a traditional dry bean you would see at the store. So that's what these are. These are a pole variety of lima bean called a rainbow lima bean. I will show you what those look like in a moment. We're a little late to harvesting them. Well, we're not late to harvesting. We had an early freeze, so these beans don't look great, but that's okay because you can separate ones that aren't so good in post-harvest. Very simple.
Almost December and we still have beans.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. But you can see the plants are definitely ready to rest for the winter. We are experimenting with whether or not they will come back kind of like a perennial from seed. I guess that wouldn't be a true perennial, right? Because a true perennial comes back from the roots.
Well, I mean, I actually don't know how to answer that question.
Okay, well that's something we could look into later. But they may come back from seed in this part of the row. Maybe not, because we're gonna tarp it, kind of like this one is, to kill all the weeds and to preserve the nutrients over the winter. But for now, we are getting as many beans as we can off of this plant and shelling them. And hang on a second, I'll show you what those beans look like. This is what this particular variety of bean looks like. I think they're very beautiful. I love growing beans. It is a moderate amount of labor, but they were very pest resistant. So the planting was pretty easy. The shelling is really the only part that's labor intensive, but it is worth it. Beans are starting to get expensive in the store, especially if you want organic. We don't intend to do a full market row again this year because it is a little too labor intensive to sell when you're just people and you're not using machines. You can't really compete with grocery stores that have, you know, all the big machinery that shells beans in like milliseconds when you're doing it by hand. However, it is really rewarding to shell beans by hand and then eat them and just be part of the whole process start to finish. So that's what we're doing today, and whatever we get today is what we're going to use throughout the winter. So maybe we'll check back in later when we've finished harvesting and finished shelling and show you exactly how many beans we get off of these. What would you say, a dozen plants?
At this point less, but yeah, probably in total.
about a dozen bean plants, but each plant was 3 beans planted to start. So I guess it could be.
You want to talk about what you would do differently next year as far as spacing?
I would space them a lot further because
like maybe one every 3 or
yeah,
4
you could
feet
see where our trellis is giving, and these are metal electrical conduit that we used. Hang on, miss.
You, baby.
And it was not strong enough for the weight. I'll show you another spot right here where it bowed in. It's also just really like a massive tangle of beans, which is a good problem to have, but I would just space them out a little further and probably only do one type of bean per row. Down there is where we did some pole green beans that have already perished for the winter, so those look a little rough, but next year I would space them further and just do one variety per row. And that's lima beans.